Hello, good crowd. We are really fortunate today. We have with us Patricia Mertz, who is the founder and executive director of the Ivory Coast Mothers and Children's Organization. We also have with us John Brennick, the co-founder of Caring Crowd and an employee at Johnson & Johnson. We're going to have a great discussion today. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Our sponsor, Johnson & Johnson, matches most individual donations up to $250 at caringcrowd.org. John, Patricia, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
We're thrilled to have you both. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Now, John, because you're a sponsor of the show, everyone's familiar with Caring Crowd here that's a regular listener. But I want to ask Patricia to start off by introducing us to her organization, the Ivory Coast Mothers and Children.
Ivory Coast Mothers and Children was actually founded in 2007. And we got our 501c3 and 2008 we received our 501c3, but I had done the Peace Corps in this particular village in the Ivory Coast in Braffoibi when I was 55.
Wow.
So I went and we were there for 17 months, and there was an attempted coup d'etat, so we were evacuated after 17 months.
Wow.
So I didn't finish my 2 years and 3 months that was promised. And because of the evacuation, I did wind up going to Kenya, but I could not get those people and just couldn't get them out of my mind and my heart. And so what happened was I have a little niece that came up to me, and because I wouldn't shut up about the mothers and the children and the people and everything that was going on. And she said, well, Aunt Patsy, what are you going to do about it? And I said, I'm going to start a clinic. And she said, okay, I'll join a singing contest, and if I win, I'll give you $10,000. And that was the kickstart. She didn't win, but we started raising money, and it took almost 7 years to open. And the first baby was born in 2013. And it was wonderful.
Wow. All that work, all those years of work.
Yeah.
How has working with Caring Crowd and John been helpful to you as you've tried to grow over the last few years?
Over the last few years, it's made a great difference. And I can speak particularly about this recent trip. We just returned a couple days ago, and I went with our president, Anna Erlandson, and one of her classmates at NYU. So Anna and Dabney Close, they raised the money on Caring Crowd to do these 720 vaccinations that we did in 3 villages. It was just absolutely phenomenal for meningitis, tetanus, and typhoid. Typhoids are getting to be a real problem there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's a problem. And we're waiting for the day malaria has a vaccination, because malaria it's everywhere. It's so pervasive.
Yeah.
And so John, thank you. You know, that was really quite a boost for us this time to get those vaccinations done. And for so many other projects, it's almost like I could spend the whole next half hour talking about them.
Yeah. So John, Caring Crowd, John doesn't do this out of his own pocket. Johnson & Johnson helps John, who with Caring Crowd, to provide some match. So you raised about $15,000. How much of that was a match from Johnson & Johnson?
Well, I don't really remember the exact statistics. They match up to $250. So
Per person, per campaign, yes.
Per campaign, exactly. And so that it makes a big difference, because that way we hit a whole lot of people on social media, and we hit a whole lot of people, and you know, I go into my son's company and shake them all down, and I mean, there are many different ways to raise money, I found out.
Yeah.
And
It's really inspiring. Sometimes I see that campaigns raise a lot of money with relatively few donors because so many are willing to give $250 when they know John and Johnson are going to match them. So John, tell us a little bit about how you work with people like Patricia to help them raise money on Caring Crowd.
So one of the things about Caring Crowd is that for first-time users, we spend some time with them. So I remember first talking to Patricia on the phone and learning about our organization and helping her get the first project through our advisory panel. And, we provide some tips, and that has led to an 85% campaign success rate, which is pretty up there for crowdfunding sites.
Yeah.
And so I love getting to know heroes like Patricia and helping them out. It's absolutely an honor and a privilege and fantastic. And by the way, I just looked it up. Patricia and others who have used Caring Crowd for mothers and children of the Ivory Coast have raised just under $30,000 across 4 campaigns.
Wow.
not bad, huh?
That's great. And a big chunk of that is probably matched. John, do you have that data in front of you, or do you know?
No, it's typically it's like 40% is matched on average. So
Yeah,
it's probably the same case here.
There aren't always matching funds available, but most of the time there are, and they go up to 50%, or they go up to 100%, up to $250 per person per campaign. So there's a limit, right? So it's not 50% of all donations, but works out to be 50% of most, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's
Some
100%
campaigns are
match.
50%, some are 35%, depending on a couple of factors. And by the way, that match is automatically added and calculated, so the donor does not have to do a single additional click. They just have to pledge at the right time.
Yeah, it's really amazing, the generosity of Johnson and Johnson, so it really is an important message for people to get, that nonprofits can raise money on Caring Crowd, and you don't have to be an executive director or a founder like Patricia, right? Some of the people that have helped raise money for the organization, for Ivory Coast Mother and Children, were not Patricia, right? They were other people. Is that right?
Well, this was the first time that Anna and Dabney took it upon themselves to do this as part of the school project. They actually got credit for their master's degree in global health at NYU.
Oh,
and so we're very proud to be able to work with them on this, and we hope in the future that we'll get some more global health students into the village, because they were incredible. And we also went on this trip with a nurse, a surgical nurse from San Francisco, Emily McDonald, and also a young man who is a pre-med student. And we had this team that was so forceful. We got so much done. We also partnered on this trip with Vitamin Angels. So we were able to give out prenatal vitamins, and also anemias. It's like almost every child is malnourished. It's really sad. Their diets are so poor.
Yeah.
And so these children are receiving ages 1 to 5. They receive vitamins, and then 5 to 12 they get vitamins, and then we also brought worming, albutazine or whatever, deworming. I am not a professional, I can tell you that, but I've got a lot of smart friends.
Yeah, and you also raised money for sinks for hand washing, right?
Yeah, we in 2 villages, we it was actually very successful in one of the villages. It didn't have as much trouble as our particular village. There's been a drought for the last 2 years. So now we're raising money to build another well. We have one well with fresh water that we built at our clinic, but we need another well at the school because now we have all of these beautiful sinks with no water coming out.
No.
We wanted to promote proper hand washing with soap. We even had women learn how to make the soap. I mean, it was all set to go, but you know.
Well,
yeah.
One step at a time, one step at a time.
One project.
John, it's interesting how you've used Caring Crowd to advance global health initiatives, but not all of the projects are obviously health related. The health impacts are sometimes the results and not the activity. Isn't that right?
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, a project, when you first look at a project, you may think, okay, how is this related to health? And then you just scratch the surface, and many of them have huge impacts. For example, if you are bringing a young lady who is at risk in a rural area to a boarding school, she not only escapes poverty through education because she wasn't going to get to go to high school because you have to pay fees. And poverty, of course, is highly correlated with health risks. But also you take her out of situations where there's unclean water, there's more malaria, there's gender-based violence, and other risks. So sometimes you scratch the surface of the title and there are huge health implications or health outcome possibilities.
Yeah, that's really a powerful consideration. So for nonprofits that may not be directly providing vaccines, nutrition, there may be things that are in fact health outcomes. So if you're providing food that improves nutrition, that's a health thing. So all kinds of different ways to get to health, sinks for hand washing, that sort of thing. There are lots of creative ways to tap into the Johnson & Johnson's generosity here. Really a magnificent program.
Yeah, and I'll add using Caring Crowd can help fill gaps in funding for nonprofits. So it's less restricted, more flexible. So if particular funders are interested in X and Y, but not Z, you can turn to Caring Crowd to fill in Z. And I have to say, Patricia and her teammates and supporters are really action-oriented. They are focused on getting things done. That was one thing that impressed me right off the bat. I could tell they are achievers. They take action, they not only talk. And they also, the advisors when the first Ivory Coast Mothers and Children project went up for review, one of the things they liked immediately was that Patricia was so familiar with the community and had lived there for so long. And that's a strong criteria for success for any project.
Excellent. Patricia, as you reflect on, your action orientation, like John was talking about, and your bias for just getting things done, what are you most proud of having accomplished?
Well, it wasn't, can we just say it wasn't an easy road?
Yeah.
We had a lot of lumps along the way, but, getting the right people, it was so important for me to get a consultant, to get pay an accountant, to do the little things like that. And then we had to go in and do a whole little house cleaning, like kick everybody out and start all over again. That was in 2015. And we named our own management committee. And as it so happens, and John, I know, likes this story or knows this story, there was a young man that lived across the way from me. His name was Oscar. It's actually Max Elise. And he's been confined to a wheelchair since he was 6 years old, and was absolutely, just has limited use of his hands. He can absolutely no use of his body at all. He had to be wheeled to the high school in these choppy, long dirt roads for over an hour to get to high school. And this was a high school of 14 villages. He was number one in his class. He is brilliant. And he makes light of it. He said, what else did I have to do but read books? There were no books. People found books and gave him books. When I started the clinic, there weren't even computers or phones. We had to do it by letter. It was really like old school. So then when we did the, I'll call it house cleaning in 2015, I named Oscar the director of the clinic. And if there is anyone in that village or in the region that has a bigger heart than Oscar, I do not know who it is. He comes from the place of giving back, because everyone had to help him do everything from eating, from taking care of his personal needs, going to school back and forth on the road. So he felt like he always owed people something. And he is just loving and kind and generous and honest. I would trust him with my first, second born.
That's great.
He's just, he's a brilliant guy. And so the clinic is being run very well. And if it wasn't for the good people there and the respect that they have for him, I don't think it would be the success that it is.
Sure. John, as you reflect on all you've done, the millions of dollars that people have raised on Caring Crowd, what are you most proud of having accomplished?
Well, the fact that Johnson & Johnson funds, and as well as people and organizations passing reviews and gaining that credibility that their nonprofit was checked out and their projects were reviewed by public health professors, to take small but super high quality nonprofits to keep them growing and doing their high quality work where they're literally saving lives and improving lives and giving other people opportunity to make impacts and feel that sense of meaningfulness, and that they're helping and that they're part of something bigger than themselves. So that's enormous, and thanks to senior management at Johnson & Johnson for providing the funding and giving us the go-ahead to make this idea a reality. Thanks.
Wow. As you think back, Patricia, what is the most important lesson you've learned?
Lessons. There have been so many lessons. Seeing as how I didn't know anything about health or fundraising or public speaking, I really had to start from square one. But my lesson, and I mentioned it before, was the people that I have surrounded myself with, and my friends and family. It's enormous, their contribution towards making this a success, because you can't do anything like this alone, and you just have to forget about Pat Mertz doesn't exist. It's them, and as soon as you forget that, then you can do anything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. John, you've been at this for a while. What is the most important lesson you've learned about crowdfunding?
Well, prepare the campaigns, get some people lined up for that starting momentum and that social validation, have a plan to get closer to your funding goal. And as as you get closer to that funding goal, people really want to help. They help you reach that goal. And having a deadline and having, shown that other people and you have gotten to close to the deadline, then people almost jump over themselves to help you get across the finish line. So I think that's key for crowdfunding.
That is a great, great lesson. Thank you, John, for sharing that insight. Patricia, what is your superpower?
My superpower. Well, it's, I guess you'd have to say it's my passion. And, but you can't do anything unless you have the people around you. And those, I have to keep going back to them because, the wind beneath my wings kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty enormous. I have my second son, Matthew, went to the village with me for the first time after from 2002 to 2009. And he came back with me and was such a great support from that time. And then my oldest son had a company, and all of these kids and their friends and my family, I mean, they are all a part of something that is so big, that they have affected the lives of so many people. And to be able to go back, I can, you just can't get those faces, the faces of the gratitude in the eyes of the old man who knew me 20 years ago, and the woman who was suffering, I know, and the children who have been, we've been able to save with surgeries and therapies, and the gratitude that they have. That just keeps you going.
Yeah. John, remind us, what is your superpower?
I'm going to borrow from Pat this time and say there's a passion here as well. And connecting with people like Pat and her team is really the best part of this. So it's really the people, right? It's all about people.
Fantastic. Well, John, Patricia, I thank you both for taking the time to be with us. Let me ask you each in turn to just take a minute and tell us how people can learn more about your work and how they can connect with you personally. Patricia, maybe you'd go first.
I like the old-fashioned way. It's Ivory Coast, so if you just remember iCoast Pat at yahoo.com or iCoastPat at gmail.com. Of course, we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. A lot of photos from the last trip. So we're everywhere.
Oh, good.
Find us.
John?
Yes, please go to caringcrowd.org, caringcrowd.org, and click on support a project, create a project, email help@caringcrowd.org, and we look forward to helping you make your impact. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time to be with us today. It's so exciting to learn more about what you're doing, and we want to wish you every success in continuing to improve global health.
Thanks.
Thank you for your work too, Devin.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Okay.
Thanks.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thanks for tuning in to the Your Mark on the World show, the Social Impact Podcast. Please subscribe via YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify.